I'm Wendy from Shiny Happy World, and in this video I'm going to show you how to make this super cute dragon applique block. This is the current pattern in the Funny Faces Quilt Block of the Month Club, and when I say current, I'm recording this in July 2019. It'll be exclusive to club members for a little while, and then it'll be available in the Shiny Happy World shop. And I'll drop a link in the description below this video telling you where you can get it. But for now, here's how to make it. Okay, to make your dragon block, you're going to need to get your pattern onto the paper side of fusible adhesive. You can print it or you can trace it, whichever works best for you, but get all of the pattern pieces transferred onto the paper side of the fusible adhesive. After that, we got to get it onto the fabric. You want a rough cut around each of the pieces. That means leave a little bit of extra all the way around the pieces and leave a little extra wherever there's a dotted line. That's the bit that's going to tuck behind other pieces so you get a clean finish. So make sure that you transfer all of the roughly cut out each piece, and then follow the package instructions and fuse it to the back side of the fabric that you're using. Okay, after you get the adhesive fused onto your fabric, now it's time to do a clean cut. So for that, you're going to cut right on the straight lines, the solid lines, and you're going to leave a little bit of extra wherever there's a dotted line. The other thing that you need to do before we start peeling any of this paper off is transfer the eye markings and the nostril markings to the front of the fabric. And for that, I typically hold it up in a window so that the light is shining through it, and then you can just make a little mark where the eyes are. And I like to mark inside the circle of the eyes. You can see that these ovals are smaller than these ovals. If you mark inside the circles of the eyes, then you just have a general idea of where to place the eyes, and you don't have to get it positioned perfectly. So, clean cut around all of your pieces. Transfer your eye and your nostril markings, and then it's time to start laying out the dragon. So to do that, we're going to peel off the paper backings and start laying them in place. So I have a longer rectangle for this because I am going to make a calendar page out of this, but these will all fit on a square block. So remember, you want to transfer those eye markings before you peel off the paper backing, because once you peel that off, your guide is gone. So you're going to overlap the side of the head a little bit over the top of the neck. And remember, you want to line the bottom of the neck up with the rough edge of the bottom of your block. We're going to take the nose, put it on the bottom. You know what? I'm going to shift this over a little bit. I want this to be a little more off center than that. So the nose overlaps the bottom of the face. Now we can start putting in some bumps. So the picture of the basic image has just 5 bumps going down his back. But you have 6 bumps in the pattern piece, and I did that because I wanted to give you a little bit extra to play with in case you wanted to make them overlap or run a little bit further up his back. So I'm going to make them be right next to each other. Oops, just shifted him around. But I just wanted to show you really quickly what it could look like if you overlapped them. It would just be a different look, and I wanted to give you the flexibility to do it either way. So that's what it would look like overlapped, but I want to have those half circles or bumps be right next to each other. And it doesn't matter what order you put them out in. I've got them numbered from top to bottom, but it really doesn't matter. Just put them out there whatever way you like. So there we go. I'm just going to shift them up just a little bit more. So I only ended up using 5, so I've got 1 extra there. Now I want to put his ears in place. So the ears point down. And then this one is going to go underneath the head and a little bit over the top of the neck there. Make sure you're happy with the angle that he's at. There's not a single right or wrong way to do this. And then he's got some horns. I love using stripes for horns anytime I can. I will always use a striped fabric for horns. And I always try and set it so that the stripes are going kind of at an angle on the horns, because I want them to look almost like those kind of spiral horns that you'll see sometimes in drawings. Now I'm going to give mine flames, but the flames are optional, so you can leave them off of yours if you want. Now if you're doing this on a square block, you may need to angle your flames down to get it all to fit into the square, or you can make it go off the side of the block, which I'll show you another example of later. But I've got plenty of room on this rectangular piece, so I'm going to go ahead and let them be swooping off to the side. And now finally, I've got eyes and nostrils. And if you get them confused after you cut them out and they don't have the labels on them anymore, because they're so small that I can't really do labels on the individual eyes. The eyes are a little bit smaller than the nostrils. So you should have 2 ovals that are a little bit bigger and 2 that are a little bit smaller. Let's see. These are not. There, I like the look of that. And now I've got a nostril. And 1 more nostril. Now it's time for me to fuse all that down, and I will do all of the outline stitching around it and come back and I'll talk to you about the order in which I do all of that outline stitching. All right, so here's the finished block with all of the outlining done. I'm going to take you really quickly through how I did the outlining. I like to minimize the number of times I have to stop and start and tie knots, and this one there's actually not nearly as much stopping and starting as you would think. So I started right here to go around this nose piece, just a little bit inside the face. So I went around the nose 3 times, and then I went up around the top of the head. 1, 2, 3. Then I tied it off, and then I started here on the ear and I went 1, 2, 3, and instead of tying it off, I just doubled over this row of stitching a little bit and went 1, 2, 3, and went over this line of stitching 1, 2, 3, and then this line of stitching 1, 2, 3, and then I did the back of his neck 1, 2, 3, and then I zipped once right across here. Mostly I went in the batting, but it doesn't really matter because this bottom edge is going to be caught in the seam. Came over to here and went 1, 2, 3, and then tied off and knotted. So that was great. I didn't have to do much knotting at all around there. And same thing for the bumps on the back of his neck. So I started here and went 1, 2, 3, doubled over just 1 stitch really on the neck here. 1, 2, 3, carried here. 1, 2, 3, carried. 1, 2, 3, carried. 1, 2, 3, knotted that off again. Then I did around each eye and nostril just 1 time. Since it's black thread on black fabric, you can't see that sketchy scribbly look anyway, so I just do once around just to secure it. And then take a deep breath, stretch, and then do the flames. There's a lot of tight turns in here. It's not really very much fun to stitch. If you haven't already, make sure before you tackle this that you watch the video that I have showing how to handle some of these tight curves. That's going to help you a lot, and there's going to be a link to that in the pattern for the dragon block. But this one it's all a single outline, so you just go around it once, back, and then 3 times, and then stop. It's just that it takes a lot of time because you're really going slow around these tight tight curves. And that's it. So before we leave, I want to show you just a couple of different versions of the same block. This is the version I'm doing for the pink on pink on pink quilt. And again, I'm still loving this. I did this one without the flames, just so that you could see what he would look like without flames on there. So that is the dragon without the flames. And now I've got one more. This one is a very, very fancy version. I'm not sure if you can tell when I have it flat, but I did the dragon, the head, neck, and ears, and the flames are all satin fabric, and the horns are gold tissue lame. The back of the bumps on his neck, those are regular cotton fabric. But I'm going to kind of shift this in the light so that you can get a better view of it, see how it changes when the light is hitting it. This is really, really fun to do, and I've got tutorials at Shiny Happy World that show you how to work with satin, which would normally melt when you fuse it, and also how to work with tissue lame and other super fragile fabrics like that. So 2 different tutorials, but magical creatures are the perfect time to use some of those fancy fabrics that you might have. So that's another version, and then I've got one more. So this guy shows, if you'll remember at the very beginning, I talked about how you can make that flame lick outside of your block and into the sashing that goes around it. So this one I did with the faux wonky sashing. I've got a tutorial that shows you how to do that, and all that's kind of busting out of the frame is just that little bit of flame licking out. So that is another really fun variation that you can do because he really does fill the block. He's a good one to do to get that busting out of the frame version adaptation with. So those are my dragons. I hope you liked this one, and I will see you next month with a new pattern. I'm Wendy from Shiny Happy World. I'll see you next time.